Hey, Mark Shepard, Healing Pastures, and folks, this is a long one. This is a big one. It's a long time coming. I haven't posted a Sunday message in a long time, and I know it's long. So if you don't want to watch it, that's fine. It's just I had to tell the story, and I had to add into the story the things that I've learned this summer and that might actually help you. So if you could just hang in there and watch the whole thing, even if you have to do it in little pieces, I think it's going to be worth your while. All right. So hang in there and let's just jump in. All right. Thanks.
And it's that time again.
Hey, Mark Shepard here, the one from Canton, New York, and quick, exciting message. 10 years ago, I found a guy online named Mark Shepard who is a farmer, but it turns out he's also a songwriter. I'm a farmer and a songwriter. Mark Shepard is doing farming in a way that blew my circuits, blew my mind that, hey, we can actually have sustainable farming with modern methods that don't have tons and tons of expensive inputs and heavy equipment and pesticides and fertilizers and chemicals. And it really inspired me to start a path that has led me here as an active full-time shepherd doing my sheep project under solar projects, and my glasses are fogging up. But Mark Shepard, it turns out, has relatives here in Canton, and he's the same age as me, same middle initial, and I played French horn in high school. He played baritone horn. He's a songwriter. I'm a songwriter. He has agreed to visit us here in the North Country on Friday, October 3rd and Saturday, October 4th. And he's gonna do a talk. We're gonna do some music at the Prairie Mills Community Center on Friday night. And then Saturday, he's gonna do some pasture walks for those that are interested in understanding how he thinks about water on the land and how to manage it and actually slow it down and have it percolate instead of sitting on top or knocking stuff down with floods, right? So flood management, resource management, permaculture, perennial farming, all kinds of cool stuff. So I hope you'll make it a point to show up Prairie Mills Community Center Friday, October 3rd. Boom! I'm steering them with my body, and then these goofnicks are gonna get moved too. But I figured I'd do the ducks first. Okay, come on. Ship. Look at them go. I always act like I've been starving them, and then I feel like I'm a bad shepherd. I think I need to work on that. Come on, piggets. Come on. Come on, piggets. Well, we're getting down to the end of September here in the North Country. The crops are getting ready to be harvested. They've already started harvesting some corn. And took a little break, and I had some reflections on this summer from hell. So I hope you'll stick around and watch the summer from hell. Thanks for joining us. This is Mark Shepard, Healing Pastures, the farm church, because this is church to me. This is church to us. The sacredness of how we grow our food and the place we have in the universe is what it's all about. Boom. So yeah, it was the summer from hell. I lost a lot of sheep to foot rot, fly strike, just the mysterious 1 minute they're fine, the next minute they're dead disease, which we think comes from the snails. Stick around if you want to hear all about it. Skip to the end if you just want the triumphant song and the takeaways from my summer in hell that can help you the next time you have a hellish experience in your life, because we all have them. If you haven't had one yet, you're gonna, because we're human, we're frail, and shit happens. So if you want some tools to help you get through your shit storms, they're at the end. But if you want to hear all about my shit storm and how I managed to survive it, a little bit stronger, a little bit sadder, a little bit wiser, stick around. It's coming up now. Boom! So this summer was pretty intense. And I want to start off with a couple of stories, see if I can somehow formulate the lessons and the stories in a way that actually works, not only to help me, but to help somebody else perhaps. And so we start with one story, the good luck, bad luck story. This has been used a lot by motivational speakers, but it's an old Taoist or Zen story. It's from the Far East. I think China originated. There was a farmer, and the farmer had a mare, and at one point the mare ran off with a wild stallion, and the neighbor was like, bad luck. The farmer was like, good luck, bad luck. And eventually the mare came back with a stallion and a whole herd of horses, wild horses. And the neighbor was like, wow, that's good luck. And the farmer was like, good luck, bad luck. And eventually the farmer's son was trying to train that stallion, and he broke his leg trying to tame him. He fell off the stallion. And the neighbor was like, oh, bad luck. And the farmer was like, good luck, bad luck. Then there was a war. They didn't come for the boy, the young man, because his leg was broken, right? So the lesson is, some things look good, some things look bad, but we don't really know whether they are or not. The reality is, we spend our entire lives bouncing back and forth between things that feel good and things that feel bad. And then we associate or label the events that are triggering those feelings as good or bad, but they're not. So this summer, well, basically back in February, I got connected through a neighbor. My neighbor Elliot Rohde across the street connected me with a solar company. And it took a couple of different phone calls, but I eventually found a guy who was in charge of hiring shepherds for their solar places. And he said, listen, we can hire you direct, or there's a good guy named Caleb, and they have kind of like a whole co-op, and they place shepherds with lots of different solar companies. You might want to connect with him. So I eventually did, and that whole path led to me securing 5 solar farms, for lack of a better label. And 3 of them were in Canton, which is my town, and 2 of them were over near Ogdensburg. And the very first one that I went to contract with, they weren't ready, and so I couldn't do anything there. But the 2 in Ogdensburg were kind of ready right away, so I went out over there, and that's where I was like, oh my God, I don't have enough sheep. I got to get more sheep, and I was freaking out about that. So good luck, bad luck. You got all these solar places, but now you have to either mow them or you have to have sheep to eat them. Kind of both. The sheep go in and they eat most of it, but then you have to kind of mow what they don't eat. So there's still some mowing involved. So I was freaking out because I didn't have enough money yet, because they hadn't paid me yet to actually buy any more sheep. So Caleb at the sheep co-op place, United Agrivoltaic, suggested I rent sheep. So I rented them from these people that I bought 25 ewe lambs from back in November. And I gotta say, again, good luck, bad luck. Those 25 ewe lambs were supposed to like build my flock, but they all turned out to have like foot rot. Like they brought foot rot to my flock. So in the process of trying to keep these solar places mowed, and I had all these rental sheep over at one of the locations, I managed to get my collaborator Corey Vineyard to do the mowing, and the rental sheep were going to town. They were mowing, but they're in pretty bad physical shape. A bunch of them were limping. I lost a couple at the beginning, but then I didn't lose any until like it got really hot, and the guy who owned the sheep hadn't sheared them. These were wool sheep. He didn't rent me any of his hair sheep. He just rented me his wool sheep, and a lot of these had poopy bottoms. They hadn't been crotched, which means where you trim their backside so they don't get poop in their fur and their wool. Just not the best group of sheep. And so I went as long as I could, but then we ended up having really hot weather and a drought, and the forage pretty much burned up in those solar places near Ogdensburg. Good luck, bad luck. So, there's not much soil. Farmers do not lease their best fields to solar projects. They just don't. So anybody who says, oh, we're losing precious farmland to solar projects, that's a lie. That's promo. That's lobbying. That's just BS, because these solar panels, the ones near Ogdensburg, there's so little soil. It's like on this rock. It's kind of like putting temporary electric netting up is really frustrating, because there's nothing to put the posts into other than rocks. So good luck, bad luck. So it was really a learning curve, but it took a lot of time, and essentially all the time that I would normally spend recording or doing some self-care or resting, I was spending going back and forth to Ogdensburg trying to keep these sheep from dying, trying to keep them in water. And I had a whole water tank system set up, but of course it failed a couple of times. So on and on and on. And then finally, I was able to get most of them on a truck to take them back to their owners, except I couldn't get 7 on the truck. Good luck, bad luck. I spent 7 days trying to get those 7 on. I was able to get 5 of them on the first day just by baiting the trailer, but the other 2 would not. They would not get on that trailer. So I had to kind of do a whole other plan, and I set up a kind of a big funnel to trap them, but it wasn't quite right, and they got out of the funnel. And then the next day I set it up better, but then they knocked over the hog panels that were at the end, and they wouldn't go on the trailer. So it was just a shit show for me, and it was just getting exhausting, and I was just wearing out, and the stress of it. But I finally, after many false starts, they taught me what I needed to do. And with the help of another guy who has a solar place near me, he was like, Mark, you got to use the perimeter fence and push them up against it and then into a lane. And you got to use cattle panels, not hog panels, because they will jump hog panels. They will knock them over. You got to support them. So I had some good advice, and I got them on the trailer, got them back to their owner. And I had been talking to them about buying like 100 of their sheep, but I don't want their sheep anymore. So good luck, bad luck. And in the process also my sheep, because I put them in a solar place in Canton, my girls, my ewes, that was quite wet and actually had good soil, had good forage, but it was full of snails. And so my girls started dying of the frickin' snail flukes or something else that they were getting there. So it's just been one thing after another, but for me, I'm trying and attempting to keep in mind this whole good luck, bad luck, and I find I'm a very reactive person, and I don't know if it's because I'm autistic or I'm just an idiot, and the stress of doing all that and trying to take care of my dad And for example, on my dad's birthday, he woke up with a stomach virus. So I had to cancel the big surprise party that I had planned for him. And my sister was visiting, so I left her in charge of him. So I went over to check the sheep in Ogdensburg. This is before I got rid of them. And it was a really hot day, 97 degrees. And one of them had literally dropped dead in the water, in the stock tank. So it had basically poisoned the water with its death. And it was already filled with maggots. It was so gross. And two others had died right near it, and the other sheep weren't doing well because they didn't have any water. So it was just one of those days that was so intense. And I told somebody, it was like, it was so intense that I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself. Like, that came later. But like, I had to get these sheep out of the water, the dead one. I had to get rid of the water. I had to get rid of the dead sheep. And they're big sheep. Dorset sheep are big. And I was alone, and I didn't have my machine, my brush mower and sled to pull them anywhere. Or maybe I did. I don't remember. But yeah, I think maybe I did. I got them out of there with the brush mower. So then I had to move all of those rental sheep to a new area and give them fresh water. And luckily I had water in the water tank, but it was getting low. So I also had to get more water over there. It was just a shit show. And then in the middle of that, my sister calls and says, Dad is falling down trying to get out of bed. What should I do? And it was like, call 911. So she ended up calling 911. It was just that kind of stuff. And my sheep were dying. My pet lamb died. It was just like one thing after another. And so I really have gravitated to that story. Good luck, bad luck, good news, bad news. Is this good? Is this bad? We don't know. I just know that a lot of it felt bad. And I felt like a failure. I felt like I failed my sheep. My own sheep were dying. When the rental sheep weren't dying, my sheep were dying. And then when my sheep weren't dying, the rental sheep were dying. It was like so much death. So much death. So much of a lesson about the fragility of life and the temporariness and how easily sheep die. Like, we have developed sheep that are so susceptible to so many different diseases. And one of my goals is to develop a flock of sheep that have natural parasite resistance, but that we also move, and we don't breed any sheep that has bad feet, that we don't breed any sheep that have trouble giving birth. We don't breed any sheep that have triplets, only twins. We don't breed any sheep that don't breed back. You know, we call until we have a core group of animals that are bursting with health. And then the next step is we have to manage them so they're never in a place where there's a lot of snails. We manage them well for regular parasites because we move them every 4 to 7 days. But we got to do better, right? So on the positive side, now's the time to learn these hard lessons. We've learned how to treat foot rot, and we're also at a place where we need a sheep handling system. So we're faced with more capital outlays if we're going to keep doing this. And it just goes on and on and on. Good luck, bad luck, good news, bad news. Is it good? Is it bad? What if it just is? You know? And also learning to not get hijacked by my emotions, to not get hijacked by the things that seem bad, and also to not get too excited when things seem good. Like, yeah, whatever, we'll see. I got 5 solar places, and I have a little cash flow coming in, but I'm going to actually spend a lot of that cash flow. I'm going to spend a lot of it mowing, because I'm not buying a bunch of mowing equipment, but I did have to buy a new brush mower, so I have to pay that off now. And, you know, I've paid out a lot in mowing. So it's like, okay, how do I've been paid for half of all the solar places, And that money is close to out. Just because I have expenses, right? And it's like the more I do, the more expenses I have, the more stuff I need so I can keep doing the thing that I'm doing. And there's a question, is it worth it? Do we want to keep doing it? Or is it time to go, okay, I think I learned what I need to learn. Now maybe it's time to focus full time on the music. Or is it just we've had a drought, and so we've had very few rainy days, and I tend to record when it's rainy, right? And last summer I got a lot more recording done because it rained all summer. And there were days it was just pouring rain. Well, yeah, I'll record. And I didn't have the extra flock last summer. So everything goes into the evaluation bin to kind of sort through and go, okay, the beauty of farming is that it's very flexible and you can do it in any number of ways. Thousands of ways you can do it. In many ways you can actually make a profit. And, you know, having 5 solar projects basically means I can mix and match portfolios of pastures. Like I can mix and match pastures in my portfolio. So if it's wet, I put them over in Ogdensburg because it's very dry over there. If it's dry, I put them over in Canton because there's a lot more water in Canton. So that gives me some choices. And I still want to run my flock through all of Joel Howie's orchards because I get paid in different ways from doing that. I mean, he gives me all kinds of apples and the animals love them, and I think they're good for them. Hopefully they're not too many apples. But that's the big story from the summer. It was a shit show. I was exhausted. I worked really hard. And it was just life, you know, dealing with real stuff, dealing with an unforgiving learning curve. Nature is not kind. Nature is ruthless. Like, nature doesn't care if the sheep die and the parasites thrive. It's all the same to nature. Nature loves the parasites and the flies as much as it loves the sheep, the birds, all the things that we think are nice, right? So the reality is, sheep did not evolve in wet areas. So if you have sheep and you're in an area that gets a lot of rain, I'm sure you've already dealt with this. There are medications like, and the one medication that seems to work for sheep, for flukes, is out of stock everywhere. Even the manufacturer doesn't have any till December. Like they're back ordered till December. But the reality is, it's really hard to just let your sheep die and go, well, those ones aren't going to make it here, so they might as well die. Well, because every sheep that dies costs me $200, and really good sheep are like more like $400. And I thought these would thrive because they didn't get babied, And I was looking for sheep that didn't get over medicated or whatever. But these people they vaccinate, they deworm, they do all the same stuff, and they don't move their animals the way they should be moving their animals. So I've got to find another source for sheep. But before I buy any more sheep, I have to get a handle on getting these girls healthy or culling the ones that have bad feet and seeing if we can get through a winter, hopefully in one of the solar places, so they have shelter, they have some wind protection, and we can roll out hay to build the soil. That's the goal. That's the big update. And yeah, 20 minutes. No one's going to watch this. But if you do watch this, if you have watched this, if for some reason you managed to work your way through this, I really appreciate you. Please subscribe, please like. I'm just trying to document not only the process of starting a farm after age 50, let's say, but to also document what is the emotional cost. Why do so few people do this? You know, and there's a reason. It's hard. Farming is hard. Farming is hard with all the fancy equipment. And when you're trying to do it in a way that has very low inputs, and you're not doing it the traditional way where you don't own land, like there's some challenges. Like I do not own land. The only land I have is I have 5 leases, 1-year leases at solar places. And at some point I need to find a way to turn those into longer term leases so that I can actually build the soil during the winter by rolling out hay in the different solar places and making sure the sheep have a dry place to hang out all winter, you know. But we're not building barns. We're not building a barn. Most of the people near me are like, oh, you gotta have a barn. And maybe they're right, but barns are also where they're standing around in their own poop, and I don't want that. I want to move them, even in the winter, move them once a week to a new sheltered area. So, and that's how we spread the fertility around and start getting some action in the soil. These solar places, there are no worms, there's no nothing. There's just snails in the wet ones, and in the dry ones there's burdocks and wild parsnip. It's a challenge. There's not a lot of people who are really set up to do that, and they need people to do it. And there's enough money so I could actually make a living doing this, you know, particularly at some point when I am scaled up a little bit more. But the big long decision is, okay, I'm gonna focus less on buying more sheep and focus more on really taking care of my flock, getting them healthy, learning how to keep them healthy, and hopefully we only had 10 lambs this year. I bought 25 ewe lambs and I had like 10, and like I'm down to 30. Like we lost a lot. And the ones we had, a lot of them didn't breed. And if they did breed, we had a lot of dead babies. It's just been hard. But the biggest challenge is I really miss my little lammy, my little pet lamb. One day she was fine, the next day she just died. And her liver did not have flukes in it. So we don't even know what killed her, and we don't know for a fact that what killed all the other sheep was the flukes. It might have been something else that we don't even know. What the vet wants you to do is cut them open and take a sample of their liver, right? But I just can't fucking do that. You know, I got Corey to cut open a couple of them, but I just, you know, there's some things I can do and some things I can't do. Like I was okay pulling maggots out of fly strike and hoofs that were rotted away. It was gross, but I could do it. But I don't know, something about cutting them open freaks me out. You know, so I'm also trying to be gentle with myself and not beat up on myself for making mistakes. I'm trying to relax into the stress. So I don't know, that's an update. 24 minutes. Yeah, no one's gonna watch this. Anyway, if you did, thank you. And I will stop talking now. And this may not be usable anyway because of the wind, but we'll see. Boom! So I found this little place to sit in. It's a little out of the wind. And the wind is coming behind the camera. So hopefully I can hear, or you can hear what I'm saying. So good luck Bad luck, good news, bad news. The other piece is, like, for example, it was so frustrating to try to get those last 7 rental sheep onto my trailer. And it took me day after day. And in the end, like, I figured it out. I didn't give up. And the sense of accomplishment that I had at getting those last 7 wily wild sheep onto the trailer, that shifted a lot of things, and I felt a certain confidence that I'd come through something hard and I had not given up. Because that's one of my tendencies, is when it gets too intense, I give up. Because there's a certain thing about my neurology that at some point it's almost, I can't take any more input. I can't take any more stimulation, right? And if I don't get some downtime, if I don't get a break from the stimulation, I lose my mind. Like, that's just a part of my neurology. And I'm learning how to work with it and not beat up on myself for being that way, you know? But shortly after I got those last 7 sheep on the trailer, because I developed finally a workable system to get them into a funnel and then keep them in the funnel, right? And direct them so that they have one choice, and that one choice is get on the trailer. So I was able to do that with my own sheep when we needed to pull out some of the ones with bad feet, which were, of course, the wildest ones, the ones that never let us get them so we can medicate them. So I used it. So everything bad has the seeds of something good in it. And I know that intellectually, but sometimes when you're in the deep of it, when you're in the thick of it, when you're deep in it and the emotions are intense, it's hard to remember. It's hard to remember. And so that's, I guess, one of the major lessons. The other piece, since no one's going to watch this anyway, I might as well just go with what I need to say for my own need. In the middle of all this, I was remembering a couple of instances, significant instances from when I was a kid, that kind of give a clue to the fact that if I was in elementary school today, I would be labeled as autistic, whether or not that's a real thing or not, or if I just have a certain neurology that's highly sensitized to certain things and not to other things, you know. So anyway, as a kid, I remember, I think it was in 2nd grade, I was overwhelmed by being in class, and I would go to the nurse. I'd go to the nurse almost every day for just a little while, and I'd go and I'd lie down, and then I'd be able to go back to class. And so I kind of became friends with Mrs. Nelson. Also, as a little kid, I didn't get along with other kids, but I got along with adults very well. And now that I'm an adult, I get along with little kids and teenagers really well. I don't know. But Mrs. Nelson, her son Peter was actually in my class, and I guess he had a birthday. I don't think Peter invited me to his birthday party, but Mrs. Nelson did. Because she was my friend. I liked her, and she liked me. And I saw her almost every day. And I was literally taking care of myself. I didn't feel sick, but I would just get to this overwhelmed place. And I needed to have quiet, right? And today they give autistic kids like ear protection so they can kind of lower the stimulus. But this was in the 1960s, like, I'm old. So that was not an option. So at Peter Nelson's party, they had this huge rope swing. I mean, it was the biggest, longest rope swing you could possibly imagine. This rope was tied to a very, very high limb, and there's like a hill, so you could get a running start, and you just get this huge glide. And everybody was doing it, and so I got in line to do it, and then when it was my turn, you know, there was like a big knot you could sit on. and someone gave me a push, and I literally had a freak out. I had a panic attack, and I was deeply embarrassed, but like it had to stop. I couldn't handle it. Was like I was going to die. The input of that swing was so, I felt it so intensely that I thought I was literally gonna die, right? So then another time at the Grange Fair, there was this little tiny roller coaster. It was a kiddie roller coaster, and I was a kid. And it looked kind of like just a little train that went around on this track, and it wasn't very big, and it wasn't very high, and so my mom bought me a ticket, and I went on it, and again, I freaked out. It was just this little roller coaster, but the motion. And as a kid, I would get motion sick all the time in the backseat of the car while my dad was driving. And so I wanted to get me off this ride, make it stop now. So intense, so absolutely blowing my circuits. And then in 4th grade, my friend George Jurgens convinced me to go on this thing. I don't know, it's called the Scrambler or the Octopus or whatever, but it went around in a circle, but then the little car you were in, the little bucket you were in would go around too. So you're spinning around, going around. And it just absolutely freaked me out. And I had a panic attack then as well. But something, basically, it was so like I was going to die. That feeling of you are about to explode from inside and you're just gonna be dead. Like that was the feeling. And something just like said to me, relax. Something said, just go limp. And so I went limp. I literally went limp. And that bucket swung around, and it was not good. But going limp, becoming one with that bucket, made it endurable. And I was able to make it to the end of the ride. And of course, there were kids there from school who saw me freaking out on the ride. And they made fun of me. So there's a lot of shame about not being as able as other people to do things that everybody else seems to enjoy, So there's that piece. So that's how I felt this summer. Like I was on a ride and I could not get off it, but I wanted to get off it, and I wanted to get off it right now, right then, because it was freaking me out. But I managed to go limp. I managed to use my tools, my self-care tools. I did EFT. I chanted, why does it work out better than I can possibly imagine? 5,000 times. I had a counter in my car. Driving back and forth to Ogdensburg, that 30-minute drive. Why does it work out better than I can possibly imagine? Why does it work out better? I just kept working to not become hijacked, working to stay functional. And it was one of the greatest challenges of my life. Is it over? I don't know. But I'm on vacation with my girlfriend Ursula at Cape Cod, and it feels like a good opportunity to reflect and to kind of focus on what went right, what I learned, what we can do better, so that it can be something good. And the reason I want to share this story with you is because every human being has something that causes them to struggle. Everybody has, or everybody will have, a time in life when they are facing death. Everybody has, or everybody will have, a time in life when the best laid plans go awry, when it seems like the worst possible thing happens at the worst possible moment. But when we remember that it's all good, that the things that seem bad might actually be a gift in some shape or form that we might not realize until later down the road, And I've said this before and I'll say it again. There's a quote in the Course in Miracles. It's the only thing I remember from the Course in Miracles. It's basically, you do not know what is in your best interest. So when we have these hard times, when we have these intense learning situations, when we set off to pursue a dream that we've always wanted to do, in my case, record my music and be a steward to the land. Those have been dreams for all of my life. We don't know how they're going to play out, and we don't know what the timing's like. There's what I call kind of divine timing. And when we can relax into that, when we can go limp at those intense times, get back into the breath, do some self-care, get a little quiet time, put those ear protectors on, use the tools that you probably have, that we all have learned, use the coping skills, the self-protection skills, and don't quit, but take a little break. Take a step back. Give yourself a little reflective time. Change, like I had to stop drinking the second cup of coffee. I was too wound up. I was too anxious. I was too intensely focused on all the stuff that had to happen, and it wasn't feeling good in my body. So I stopped drinking coffee. The second big cup. I still have the first cup, and even that first cup is feeling a little intense. So, there are changes that might need to be made. And when we make the changes, there might be other changes that those changes cause, right? And I've covered this before in some of my other videos as I'm kind of trying to process all of this. Good news, bad news, good luck, bad luck. The reality is we want to work with reality, not with our projections, not with all of the things we're thinking about the things that are happening. What is really happening? How can we change what we need to change? How can we accept what we can't change? How can we find the wisdom to know the difference? Something I've talked about as well in the past, because this is a big thing. This is a huge project, and I don't know if I'm up for it. And I don't want the farming project to totally overwhelm and destroy the music project. I want them to work together. I want them to fit together, because if I don't have the farming thing, I'm not outside, I'm not on the land, I'm not moving my body. If I don't have the music thing, I'm just dead. I need that music. I need to be able to record these songs, and there's a hell of a lot of them. And it's a gift. But the same gift that causes me to write songs makes it very difficult for me to get them out into the world in any significant way that brings any money in, that's for sure. But the reality is, if I can make a living farming in a way that doesn't destroy my soul, and it rains enough so that I can get some time in the studio, it could be pretty good. It could be pretty good. But again, good luck, bad luck, is it good? Or is it just something that is? And every life has some rain that falls in it. Every life has some challenge that threatens to take it down. And that's why we're here. We're here to build stories that we can then take back to source on the day we die. And I think our life story is what nourishes whatever it is, all that is, that gives us life, that animates us, that we are drops in the sea of awareness of. Like, whatever created us is the sea of awareness, and we are merely drops of spray on the shore, right? And eventually we either evaporate and go to the sky and then fall back into the ocean as rain, or we evaporate, go to the sky, fall on the land, and eventually work our way down through the rivers to the ocean, or we fall right back into the ocean. Either way, We are drops in the sea of awareness. And the sea of awareness is made sweeter and richer from our experiences attempting to become who we are becoming. Peace, love, grooviness. That's all I got. This is a long one, but anyway. I got it down. It's here for somebody who might need it. If you're starting a farm from scratch and you need a little support, this is the channel. If you're doing something else that's hard and you need a little support, you need to see someone else doing something hard and struggling with it but getting through it, this might be your channel. But if you have zero attention span and you just prefer TikTok videos and cute cat videos, then you're not even going to be here. So I guess I will feel a little less critical about this and just put it out and see if it helps anybody. And if it does help, if any of this resonates with you, if any of this is helpful, could you leave a comment below? Give it a thumbs up. Just let me know if it was helpful and what else you need. Is this enough, or do you need more? What do you want more of? And if it's something that I want to do, I can do it. If it's something that somebody else wants to do, then let them do it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking right now. Peace, love, grooviness. Amen. Boom. So I don't know if you're still with me at this point, but it's time for the song that actually kind of helped me through the summer. So here it is. It's called Stand Tall. I did release earlier versions of it, but this is the kind of the finalish version. Hope you'll stick around to the end, and I appreciate you very much. All right, boom.
Rainy day, and it's not yours. You had to face a few slam doors, so you sit and hang your head wondering how to earn some bread. Was it something someone said? Was it a picture in your head? Was it a feeling in your gut? Was it an open door you imagined shut? You decide. You decide. So when did you decide to lose? Don't you know we always choose to retreat or to go forward, to move away from or to move towards. So pick yourself up off of the boards and dare to give yourself a little reward. You gave it your best shot, now it's time to dig down deep and pull out just a little bit more. Pull out just a little bit more, 'cause you decide, yeah, you decide to stand tall, force a grin, forget the loss and count the win. Hold fast, dig down deep. First you sow and then you reap. process, chose to let go of some old pattern of pain. That's right, take it, shrink it down, fade it out, push it far away and let it go. Let it go. Rearrange it into something you can learn from. Rearrange it into something you can learn from. And now you know, and it just goes to show, it's lost its power over you, hasn't it? And every thought has become a friend. Every thought has become a friend. Like the cripple throwing away his crutch, or the shy kid reaching out his hand and looking you right in the eye with a warm open smile and inviting you to dance. It's the shy kid inviting you to dance. It's the shy kid inviting you to dance. 'Cause you decide to stand tall, force a grin, forget the loss and count the win. Hold fast, dig down deep, first you sow and then you reap. Look up, breathe it in, you got the gold of Solomon. Look left, look right, brighten up your inner light. Stand tall, force a grin, forget the loss and count the win. Hold fast, dig down deep, first you sow and then you reap. Look up, breathe it in, you got the gold of Solomon. Look left, look right, brighten up your inner light.
Just like that, the rain stops. Look at the river. Holy guacamole. That is the highest I have seen it.
No sheep will do anything to stay out of the water.
I don't like my feet being wet. I don't like being held in this very unladylike position by Corey Vineyard.
Not complaining too bad.
No, she's good. She's beautiful. Wow, this is this is at one of my solar places where I had the rental sheep, and this was totally burnt out and dry. It was scorched, and look at it now. It is green again. We've had a little bit of rain. It's still a little thin in this particular area, but under the solar panels we have had quite a bit of growth. Yeah. Cowabunga Shazam. You gonna finish your dinner, buddy? I keep the dogs on a leash because I'm in a hurry. And I want them to be always used to being on leash and very well behaved on leash, which they are. But it's late. I've worked way longer than I thought I was gonna, and I need to get home and make dinner for my dad, so I don't want them running off. So that's why they're on leash, because we do have a perimeter fence, and I do let them wander freely when I have time, but I just can't afford to have them tear off after a deer or something. So anyway, finish your dinner, guys. Good boy, good girl.